Okie dokie, by Ruth Hartman Berge. Okay. When we first met Betty, our family had 2 children, a dog, 2 cats, a ferret, 2 birds, and a dwarf hamster named Thor the Assassin, Hijax. So it was quite a big family. I came home from work one day to find my 13-year-old daughter Emily waiting for me. "Mum," she said, wringing her hands, "I need to show you something." "Okay," I said. I wondered what had made her so nervous. "It's out on the patio. I just want to take care of it until we can find it a good home," she said. I followed her into our screened room. Emily pointed and I peered over the side of the laundry basket. In the corner of the basket was a tiny ball of softly mewing black fluff. She was the tiniest kitten I have ever seen. She could fit in the palm of my hand. Her eyes looked confused. She was so weak her little head bobbed up and down. "I was walking home from school," Emily said. "The construction workers down the block called me over to show me. They found her in the street. She was really dirty and scared. They couldn't take her home. I brought her home to save her, Mum. I gave her a bath. I'm going to call her Betty. Look at her beautiful eyes." Emily stopped to see what I would say. When I didn't answer right away, Emily added, "We can give her away after she gets bigger." I looked at my little daughter. Her big blue eyes were peeking at me from under her blonde hair. She looked from the kitten to me hopefully. Sighing, I nodded and said yes, we'll have to keep her for a little bit. I went inside to call our veterinarian to find out how to take care of a kitten that tiny. "Okay, sorry, Ju." The veterinarian told us how to feed her. We didn't have the right food, so we went to the pet store for bottles and formula. The poor little kitten was so hungry she attacked the bottle. We laughed as her little paws grabbed it and held on tightly. As the weeks passed and we took care of her, it grew harder and harder to think of giving her away to another family. We were still determined to find her a good home as soon as she was old enough. There was a problem though. We were starting to love her. On her first vet visit, Betty seemed to be just like every other kitten. She passed with flying colours. At home we giggled at her little kitten steps as she wobbled around the house. A few weeks later we took Betty for her second visit to the vet. The doctor watched as Betty wobbled around the table and then turned to me and said, "I'm sorry, but Betty is a bubblehead cat." "What's that?" I asked. "Well, when the mother cat is sick, it can damage the kitten. Her brain didn't grow as much as it should. It doesn't tell her muscles what to do very well, so she can't use them like most cats. Some bobblehead cats can barely walk. Betty is actually lucky. She won't get better, but she shouldn't get any worse. She'll always walk with a wobble like that, and she'll never be very big." Betty had been a feral cat. Feral cats are wild cats with no home other than in the woods. They live by hunting smaller animals and sometimes, if they're lucky, by the kindness of humans. Feral cats don't have regular vet visits and shots to protect them from diseases. Betty's family lived in the woods near our house until construction workers started building there. I felt sad because I realised it would be hard to find a home for her. I turned from the doctor to look at the little black kitten.
Donna's here, so she'll help you.
"Mom, we have to keep her now," Emily said.
Oh, they aren't crashing quite so hard.
"Excuse me."
Sorry.
Do what you want to and I'll put
We have an emergency.
Okay.
We have hungry kitties.
The kitties are hungry. Okay. We'll just have a pause while we sort out hungry kittens. I turned from the doctor to look at the little black kitten. "Mum, we have to keep her now," Emily said. "We just have to." "Yes, Em," I said slowly. "It wouldn't be right to give her away now." The months passed, and as Betty grew, she surprised us with her determination to do things her way. Betty walked oddly with both back legs stretched out on either side of her skinny little body to give her some support. She still lost her balance and fell on her side a lot. She always got a look on her face that said, "I meant to do that," and then just got up again. We lived in a 2-story house. The steps to the second floor were tall and carpeted. At first we carried Betty up or down the stairs. We wanted her with us wherever we were in the house. Sorry, that didn't sound... We wanted her with us wherever we were in the house. It wasn't long, though, before Betty hissed and growled when we picked her up to travel the stairs. She insisted on rolling down. She would thump and bump her way to the first floor, then prance around at the bottom. Her attitude said, "See, I knew I could do it. You didn't have to carry me." For the trip up the stairs, she dug her claws into the carpet. She pulled herself up all 2 flights, 1 step at a time. It was painful for us to watch. We wanted to help, but she was insistent and determined to do it her way. We had to let her. Sweetie and Garbo, our 2 older cats, liked to perch on the dresser or bathroom counter. They peered down at Betty like she was in a zoo. They weren't too happy. Betty wanted to play all the time and they didn't. They looked at me as if to ask how could I have let another cat live in our house. Betty made sure they knew she was really the cat in charge. They quickly learned that they could just jump up on things to get away from her, and did so often. Betty couldn't jump up to follow them. Every now and then another cat dared to walk through our yard when Betty was at the window watching birds. Betty's tail puffed out. She jumped up to fight with her legs spread. We heard her hissing all over the house. It was a good thing she couldn't get outside. Even though the ceiling fan was high above her, Betty was afraid of it and ducked her head whenever she walked into the room. Because Betty couldn't run like most cats, she hopped and jumped to get to safety under the coffee table. She must have thought the fan was a bird ready to swoop down and snatch her. She was more cautious than most other cats because she knew she couldn't get away quickly. That never stopped her from exploring though. She was just careful about it. When I napped on the couch, Betty liked to climb under my legs. She poked her head out of the hole in my favourite blanket to keep an eye on that fan. She liked to spy on the other cats too. When the weather turned cooler, I liked to sit out front on the patio chairs and enjoy our little garden. If I sat still enough, birds came and played in the bird bath close to me. Betty wasn't sure she liked going outside. At first she clung to my shirt with her claws. She ducked her head under my chin. After a while Betty realised she was protected in my arms. Once she knew she was safe, she sat across my lap while I scratched her neck behind the ears. Betty watched everything that moved. When a breeze blew the leaves, she never knew where to look first. There were too many things moving. Her little nose would go up in the air to catch scents on the wind. If a blue jay came to the bird bath, Betty froze. She looked like she was planning to leap off my lap and grab that big old bird for dinner. Once Betty was sitting on top of the chair at the front window watching the bird bath outside. It was full of sparrows splashing around in the bath like a public pool. A red-headed woodpecker perched on the side and watched. He looked like he was a lifeguard protecting all the little birds. Betty's eyes never moved as she stared at those birds. Her jaw moved up and down as if she already caught one and was enjoying an afternoon snack. She would never be able to really catch one, but she liked acting as if she could. When it was cold, Betty liked to sleep on my bed, but she had strict rules. For example, I wasn't allowed to pick her up and put her on the bed. She had to claw her way up the side of the bed. Once up, she growled and stumbled over to the space I made for her by my knees. I was allowed to pet her once or twice. If I tried to pet her more than that, she growled again and hissed. If I dared to turn over, sometimes she stayed. Other times she acted like that was just too much to bear. Growling and complaining, Betty would head for the foot of the bed. I was not allowed to put her on the floor. She insisted on leaping off like a flying superhero. Betty has taught our family a lot about living with a disability. She has taught us that determination, persistence and independence are very important. She has taught us to speak up for ourselves when we would rather not do something. She has taught us to be proud of what we could do and not to think too hard about the things we couldn't. She has taught us that even though her body doesn't work exactly like a cat's body is supposed to work, her brain and heart still do. Betty's older now. The doctor was right. She is still a little cat, but Betty is still very much the cat in charge and is still teaching us important lessons. And there, notice the pose? You can recognise that in some of our cats that we have here. And I think Walter is probably going to be a Betty. I don't think Walter's going to grow a huge amount. We know that Derecho's going to be a big lad. Soleil and Cosarelli are reasonable, but I think Walter. So there's Betty. But look at that pose. How often do we see it? Isn't it lovely? And determination. We know that's what... Oh, look. Walter, can I just show you? Look who's come to see everybody. I'll hold him close. Come on, Walter. There you go, love. There he is. And look who's come to see us just at the end of the story. He won't stay long. But there he is with his yellow collar. There you go, Walter, love. There you go. Isn't that wonderful that he came along just as I finished? There you go, Walter. Good boy. There you go. Good boy. Don't panic. Good boy. So that's tonight's epistle. Tomorrow night, Dorothy and Martha are usually here, so I'll see what it's like about 7:30, and then I might start on another story. So it'll be about... Oh, sorry, Wolf. Tomorrow evening about 7:30. Okay, I'll try and do something else. You're welcome, guys.